بینندگان گرامی تلویزیون ایران تیوی، با 16مین برنامه تلویزیونی بیبا در 14 جون 2003 به پایان دوره اول برنامه‌هایمان رسیدیم. عده زیادی از شما احتمالاً موفق به دیدن این برنامه‌ها نشدند و نظر به درخواست پخش مجدد مجموعه برنامه‌های دوره اول بران شدیم که این 15 برنامه را برای شما بینندگان گرامی باز پخش نماییم.
خوش آمدید به سومین برنامه بیبا. از آنجایی که شاید تعدادی از بینندگان ارجمند ایران تیوی تا به حال برنامه‌های ما را ندیده باشند، اجازه می‌خوام که توضیح کوتاهی درباره فعالیت‌های بیبا بدهم. من بابک امامیان، بنیانگذار British Iranian Business Association که به فارسی میشه انجمن مدیران ایرانی مقیم انگلستان و به مختصر ما به خودمون بیبا میگیم. پس از 9 سال فعالیت دائم در انگلستان، بیبا به خوبی در انگلستان شناخته شده است. علت تهیه این برنامه معرفی بیبا به دوستان ما در آمریکا هست، با امید آنکه روابط اقتصادی بین ایرانیان مقیم انگلستان و ایرانیان مقیم آمریکا گسترش پیدا کند. حال اجازه بدهید به برنامه امشب بپردازیم. برنامه امشب اختصاص داره به گفتگویی با یکی از دوستان بسیار خوب من، آقای رامین خادم، که یکی از چهره‌های برجسته بیبا و یک مدیر ارشد در شرکت اینمارست که فعالیت اونها در رشته سیستم‌های مخابراتی و ماهواره‌ای است. شرکت اینمارست دارای 9 ماهواره فضایی است. برای اینکه به عظمت و اهمیت این شرکت پی ببریم، کافی است که بدونیم که تعداد معدودی از کشورهای دنیا دارای ماهواره فضایی هستند. پس شرکتی که تعدادی 9 تا ماهواره فضایی داشته باشه، چقدر در اون باید سرمایه گذاری شده باشه و چقدر باید در سطح جهانی پر اهمیت باشه.
The complete amazement of everyone who had put money in this organization, which was supposed to be for the welfare of mankind, but it was going to be continuously a burden. 3 years thereafter, we were profitable.
شرکت اینمارست یک شرکت مخابراتی و سیستم ماهواره‌ای چند ملیتی است که مرکز آن در انگلستان هست و بزرگترین سرمایه گذاران آن آمریکایی‌ها هستند. کار این شرکت یکسانسازی مخابرات و سیستم ماهواره‌ای بین تمام کشتی‌ها و هواپیماهای دنیا است. علت این کار جلوگیری از سوانح هوایی و دریایی است. اگر کشتی‌های دنیا یا هواپیماهای دنیا نتونن دائما با یک سیستم در تماس باشند، امکان سوانح بسیار زیاد میباشد. برای جلوگیری از این امر تصمیم گرفته شد در سال 1970 که یک سیستم یکسان در سطح جهانی ایجاد شد.
Time and thought is big money. With Inmarsat, there's no delay and that's efficiency.
We've developed a unique family of services called Inmarsat Fleet. The unique ability of Fleet F77 to provide a flexible range of services ensures you can do business as usual round the world, maximizing productivity and efficiency.
Well, having Inmarsat on board has given us peace of mind in our job. Confidence in the event that
در سال 1981 برای ایجاد و گسترش اینمارست از رامین خادم که ساکن کانادا بود دعوت شد که به لندن بیاد. در 22 سال گذشته شرکت اینمارست موفقیت‌های چشمگیری در زمینه اقتصادی و اجتماعی داشته که سهم مهمی از اینها مربوط به رامین میشه. رامین تا به حال 2 بار در برنامه‌های بیبا سخنرانی کرده و من از او برای این مسئله بسیار متشکرم. حال اگر اجازه بدهید می‌پردازیم به گفتگویی که چند روز پیش با رامین شد. از آنجایی که زبان رایج در بیوا انگلیسی است، مقداری از این مصاحبه به انگلیسی و مقداری به فارسی است. امیدوارم این مسئله سوء تفاهمی برای کسی ایجاد نکند.
رامین جان، خیلی ممنون که امروز اومدی که با این مصاحبه رو با شما داشته باشیم. من اولش میخواستم از شما یه سوالی بکنم، اینه که you joined this company in 1981 and this company is one of the largest telecommunication or in satellite communication. Am I correct saying that?
It's one of many.
Many. And your company's business is satellite communication.
Exactly.
You actually have, am I correct saying, 9 satellites around the globe?
We have 9 satellites operating around the globe, yes.
Yeah. And this company, I presume, is between $1 to $2 billion, $1 to $2 billion worth, and you are the chief financial officer of this company. Now, می‌خواستم بپرسم از شما که این ایرانی بودن، ما که ایرانی هستیم، یا ایرانی بودن در چیز شما، مسئله برای شما ایجاد کرده در این مدت یا نکرده؟ یه مقدار که برای همه ماها.
بله، ولی من فکر میکنم که ایرانی بودن، البته ما باید خیلی افتخار کنیم که ایرانی هستیم و بنده واقعا افتخار میکنم که از سرزمین ایران اومدم و البته مدت 44 ساله که از ایران اومدم. خیلی وقت پیش به امریکا آمدیم و بعد کانادا و بعد البته انگلستان و فکر میکنم این هریتیج واقعا ما باید قدر بدیم، در اینکه درسته که ممکن در نظر افراد مثلا این مملکت یا امریکا یا اروپا ایرانیا به اصطلاح زیاد به حساب نمیارنشون یا قبولشون نمیکنن، ولی من فکر میکنم که ما این باید پراود باشیم از هریتیجمون و فکر نکنیم که یه چیزی که ننگ باعث ننگ هست. من در حقیقت در این چندین سالی که در بیزنس بودم واقعا حسی نکردم که کسی بخواد برام بزنه چون که ایرانی هستم، یا اگر میخواست بزنه اصلا قبولش نکردم و فکر میکنم باید همینطور سعی کنیم که carry on and go ahead, just go forge ahead with our own agenda, with our own lives, with our own vision.
I'd like to ask you, in 21 years being in this company, how have you managed to get to this high position in this company?
Well, Bob, I thank you. That's a very good question, and I'm not sure I can really give you an answer which would be truly reflective of what I've done personally, because I think in life we get to places through the help of our friends, the association with people we have, and frankly I have reached where I have, I suppose, if it is a high position or have high status as a result of perhaps hard work and determination to get to where I am. But I wouldn't necessarily want to give myself too much credit, because I think along the way there are a lot of people who help you to get to where you are.
But so, this is a multinational company, right?
It is,
like
yes.
Chanmeliati. You have
Multinational,
right? And you have to deal with all nationalities. The question is how somebody of Iranian origin, which is such a sensitive position, being of this multinational communication, which is vital in all aspects of life, people want to be. How would they allow somebody of Iranian origin to be in such a sensitive position? What does this say about your company, or what does it say about you mostly?
Well, I think that, fortunately, I think we live in a world today where people are possibly looked at more of what they can contribute in terms of their discipline, in terms of their knowledge, in terms of their activities, rather than their background. And I think more and more we find that companies are overlooking people's backgrounds and concentrating on their contributions, what they can do and what they can contribute to the presence of the company. So I think my background hasn't really been a hindrance. The occasions where it might have been, but one has to set that aside and forge ahead.
So, I mean, what contribution do you think you've made that people, when you started with your other colleagues, I'll say English origin or American origin or French origin or German origin, but you've managed to succeed and surpass them از ما بگذری و به این مقام بالا برسی، اونم توی یه همچین کمپانی که مرکزش تو انگلستانه، the center of operation in UK. You have a large American contingency, French, Germans, European. Clearly, first of all, it's a joy.
Well, thank you very much. I tend to look at it more in terms of having competed on an equal basis with other colleagues and cooperated as well. I would like to actually put the accent on cooperation rather than too much competition, because I think ultimately if your motives are good and you are thinking of the welfare of the company, the stakeholders in the company, not only the shareholders but the employees and suppliers and so forth and so on, then I think you know it comes through, and people will see, well, you know, the individual has
and they choose you.
And they choose you. Now, as I said, you know, I am where I am largely because of you know, circumstances, perhaps my own determination and hard work.
And your knowledge.
And
your right decision-making process.
Possibly, yes. Possibly.
How do you make your decisions so right? Why have you been so right?
Well, we have called a number of decisions correct over the years.
You have it.
We have, the company has, and I think it's been our determination to provide communications via satellites, but increasingly to a smaller and smaller terminals. This is an important thing to decide over 20 years.
You were driving that decision.
I was one of the people who pushed that, yes, to go to terminals.
If that went wrong, you wouldn't be in your position right now.
Well, if the trend would have been different, we would have lost. we gambled in a sense, but we said people want smaller terminals, they want cheaper terminals, they want cheaper airtime for communications. And in fact, we turned to be right.
Okay, let me get to actual business. So you have 9 satellites.
Yes.
And you deploy them.
Yes.
You send them by rockets off.
Yes.
So that's a very exciting and scientific, like a James Bond movie or stuff.
Yeah, it has elements of excitement and James Bond-like attributes, if you like, but it's a hard business. It is a very risky business, in fact, in that you have to build satellites.
Where do you build your satellites?
The satellites are built in the United States or Europe, and our current series are built in Europe to specifications that you identify for your customer base, the kind of communication links you want to provide.
But owned by your company.
And these satellites are owned by our company. And then these satellites have to be built and put on rockets. And
whose rockets?
These rockets could be the French rockets or the American rockets, and we have
not the Russian
range
rockets.
We have actually launched on a Russian rocket. Yes, we did in 1994, I think.
We're not anymore.
We haven't done any since.
So you're not happy with them?
No, we're quite happy with them. But because the satellites that we have technology which is sometimes cannot be exported. We need license to put American satellites or European-built satellites on Russian launchers. So you need requirements for technology transfer.
So you use that. And when they go up, what happens?
Well, once you put it on a rocket, then of course it's put into orbit, and the environment is very, very harsh, if you like, because there's a lot of vibration and movement. And there are 3 stages before the satellite actually gets deployed in orbit. There's first stage when the parts of the rocket fall off, and then it goes to the second stage and the third stage, and ultimately the satellite is put into an elliptical orbit around the Earth, where at the height of the orbit is 36,000 kilometers, and the low point is about 100-200 kilometers. So it's a very elliptical orbit, so-called perigee and apogee points. And at the precise time, a rocket is actually turned on the satellite at the height of the distance from the Earth, and that elliptic orbit becomes a circular orbit. That circular orbit is 36,000 kilometers above the Earth, and that's the orbit on which the satellite will operate. That is a precise orbit at which the satellite is geostationary relative to the ground. So as the Earth moves, the satellite moves with it. So it always sees.
And what happens if the rocket doesn't fire? You lose the satellite?
Well, you lose the satellite, and this is why I was saying it was a very risky business. Because
and what do the shareholders will say to you?
They wouldn't be happy bunnies.
Would they be asking for your job, or would they be asking
for
money?
Actually, we've been fortunate up to now. We have lost no satellites. The 9 launches we have all been successful. 9 out of 9, which has been quite a record. But should we have a failure in the future, because we have other launches on the horizon, then we have to just accept it.
Okay, we have all these heavy investments, satellite building, rockets, all these things. What happens when you see your shareholders? They ask you, Ramin, you making us any money or not? What do you say to them?
Well, fortunately, the company has been making good money. Yes, we have been. We have been quite fortunate in having the customer base around the world, which are enterprise users, the media, for example, the oil and gas, energy sectors, transport sectors will use our system around the world. The media in particular is a big user of Inmarsat because they can take very small terminals with them and report live.
So what do you do, Ramin? 1 minute you are dealing with scientists, engineers, rocket launchers. Another minute you are dealing with people who put their money into this. How do you switch this role of talking to these set of people who have different agendas together?
Yeah, and I think you need to understand that every agenda is a valid agenda. And you have to reconcile these agendas. And I think that's one of the things that takes, which comes through perhaps experience. Something everyone can learn, and it's not particularly something that I have. I think you just recognize that you respect people's agendas, but you look at the ultimate purpose of what you're doing. And the ultimate purpose is to provide communication links to people. The ultimate purpose is to serve mankind, really. I mean, what we're doing is serving people. Communications is a way of bringing people closer together, making them communicate, exchange without boundaries, without inhibition. So if you look at the business as one of effectively bringing people closer and closer together through communication means, through the satellite, or it could be through terrestrial lines as well, then I think that becomes the main purpose of your mission. That becomes your mission. And therefore you then work towards that, and you try to reconcile the differing agendas in a way that's consistent with that mission.
Okay, as a successful person, a businessman, a manager, somebody who would deal with scientists, academia, with business people, with investors, what message do you have for people who want to come into business or to management or to communication, or they are trying to become good managers like you? What message would you, what advice would you give them, the first advice you would give them?
Well, I think the first advice really, it's difficult to give advice, but let me try anyway. I think the first advice really would be to know your stuff. You really need to know your business and understand your business. What makes it tick? What are the main attributes of your business? And I think once you know that and you understand it, that knowledge brings you the sense, the power and the capability that you need to move ahead and to make things happen. It's difficult to be ignorant of what you're doing and really try to make a success of it, because frankly, that's the reality is that you've got to be on top of it. So I'd say that's the first thing for an aspiring person. And the other thing is really having a vision of what you want to become. And it's perhaps very difficult, particularly for young people today, to think of the vision, and perhaps being rather despondent because of what's happening around them in the world and so forth. But no, one has to be, I think, focused on doing something, and ignore what's happening around them, and go ahead, almost dogmatically, and say, I'm going to pursue this vision and bring it into reality. And I think that's really perhaps an element of success for making things happen and making things come to fruition. But I find it difficult to give advice really, because every individual has their own circumstances and their own weaknesses and strengths, and it may not be in management, it may be in art or...
ولی اونجایی که مثلا میگن خب مثلا رامین خادم، این اسم انگلیسی نیست یا فرانسوی نیست، این از کجا، این چیه، اینطوری اینا.
بله اتفاق میفته، گاهی اتفاق میفته که مثلا در انگلستان که یک کمی بیشتر از این نظر به اصطلاح پرجودیس هستش تا مثلا امریکا مثلا. ولی من فکر میکنم که در اون مواقع آدم قشنگ صحبتش باید بکنه، حرفش بزنه و بهشون بفهمونه که ما باید فورگت کنیم که نشنالیتیمون چیه یا ریسمون چیه یا افکارمون چیه. اصلی کار اینه که we are human beings and we are all aiming to do the same thing. That's the ultimate response. We're all equal. I mean, man is one. whether he's got a different color or a different race or a different nationality. In the case of Iranians, so what? و من فکر می‌کنم که مردم اینو قبول می‌کنن. واقعا you are aiming to do what you know. One of the interesting things about it is that the more you look at people in the world, you see there's more that we have in common that separates us. Increasingly, I've come to this conclusion that we are all one, really. The things that separate us are very, very superficial. They end up being color of, you know, skin or nationality or class or culture. But what unites us is far more fundamental, far more deep. And so I think that one has to look beyond the what appears and look, you know, inside the people, other people's, you know, souls, if you like, their psyche, their makeup, because we're all in the sight of God, we're all one. So,
well, on that happy note, thank you very much, Rami John, for your
Thank you very
time,
much.
and wish you every success.
Thank you.
Maybe we learn from you.
Well, I hope I learned from you too. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
امیدوارم که از برنامه امشب لذت برده باشید. شما را به خدا میسپارم با امید دیدار.